Hello there and welcome to my studio. Today I'll show you how to digitally ink using Photoshop. Before I begin, I publish new videos constantly, so make sure to subscribe for more great content and make sure to hit that little tiny bell to join the VIP notification club. How to digitally ink your pencils using Photoshop. Keep in mind that a lot of people will prefer Illustrator than Photoshop in order to clean up their pencil work. Illustrator does offer better tools when it comes to vectorizing digital work. I do have another video that goes over those steps, so make sure to check it out. All right, there are going to be three methods that you could use here in Photoshop to clean up your line. There might be more, however, the ones we're going to show here today are the most commonly used. You can clean up your work using paths, shapes, or brushes. And I'm going to go ahead and show you how to go into each one of those here today. There is a little bit of prep work we need to do before getting started. First off, what I like doing, and you guys would see, is to scan that image at a high enough resolution. This resolution should be at least 300 dpi. The reason why we go into 300 is because it's great for printing. Okay? If your resolution is less than that, let's say 72 dpi, it's going to print out very badly. However, it's going to work perfectly if it's only for display purposes. So for instance, let's say that your final product is going to be shown in a computer or projector or smartphone or tablet. In that case, 72 dpi is awesome resolution, and you can certainly use it just for that. But if you were to print out that same image, it's going to come out very, very bad, very pixelated, very low quality. Therefore, if it's work that is meant to be printed, please make sure that there is at least 300 dpi. It may be more, but 300 dpi is usually good. If you would like to check the size of your image, you may go to image size, and here you would see the resolution, 300. Here are the pixels, and this is the size of my image in inches, right? So you may change that if you need to, but for now we're gonna go for it. Click OK. Up next, let's make sure that we make the dark darker and the white brighter. First thing, let's take this background and duplicate it. So you can click and drag it into that icon right there. Let go. And now we go into image, adjustments, and let's first desaturate the image. This tells Photoshop to get rid of all the coloration within your picture. I don't know if you guys can see it. There was a little bit of yellow on my image before I desaturated. All right, next, we're gonna now play with the levels. So go into image, adjustments, levels. This slider controls the darks. This slider controls the whites. This slider controls the midtones or grays. So let's push the dark darker. So those blacks are nice and rich. Same thing with the white. You see how that almost immediately gets rid of a lot of lines that we don't even need. Okay, and you can make things a little darker if you wish. So I think I'll stick with something along those lines. That looks good. Click OK. Now, the best thing you can do is change all these lines into a non-photo blue type of color. And I think the best way to go about it would be to apply an adjustment layer. So go down here to this icon, click, and go into hue saturation. The great thing about adjustment layers is that all the changes that I do up here are gonna affect the layers below. So therefore, I'm gonna hit colorize, and now you can see a little bit of that change. Let's make that lighter. Increase the saturation and change that blue, that color to kind of like a blue type of color. As you work on it, you're gonna see your ink work a little better. And because I'm gonna stick with this image, right? Just gonna show you the before and after. And then with the hue saturation on, at this point I'm going to create one more layer, and here's where my ink work is going to be. Let's go over the first technique, how to clean up your image using path. First off, grab your pen tool and make sure it's set up to path up here in this drop down menu. And with that layer ready to go, we're ready to get started. Let's go ahead and start inking part of the ear here. Zoom in a little more. And I can maybe start, let's say, from this part, and let's grab all that from. So for those of you who never used the pen tool, it might be a little tricky at first. Here's how I'm gonna go about it. I'm gonna click one time, then I'm gonna click another time. Now, this is called the handle or anchor. Sorry, this is an anchor. Okay, so two anchors. That line in the middle is called the path, and these two handles are called the Bezier handles. And you can manipulate this however you want, giving you exact control over those vectors. Let's say over here I have a little bit of a sharp line. If I were to just drag it, that line may not, it may look curved and maybe not sharp. And I can certainly have a say on that. If you go into your direct selection tool, which is right here, click and hold, you got your direct selection tool, which is the white head arrow, and then you have the black head arrow. That's the path selection tool. This is just to move things around. This one will allow you to actually manipulate these anchors. So with that selected, I'm gonna go ahead, click and drag. And now the way this actually influences this line is certainly going to be the way it's going to influence your final product. So just be mindful of it. So I like that. Now it creates a nice little curve. Oops. Can put that in there. And now we're set to continue. If I wish to go back to my line, I will just grab my pen again, and you would see that icon as soon as I hover over the anchor point, you would see that dash looking icon. So I just click the one time, and now I can continue. So over here I have a little bit of a sharp angle. I think we can do something about it. So grab your direct selection tool. If you ever just deselected by accident that path that we're working on, you can always just click on it with that direct selection tool. So I'm going to put that right in that corner. Now I can make this sharp if I hold Alt. So just holding Alt, I'm going to hover over that Bezier handle, click and drag, and you see how now I can manipulate only that curve. Once I'm done, go back to my pen tool, and let's continue. Now here's is to continue my path. Click on it. Here we go. Let's cut it there. Now I'm going to do a series of clicking and dragging. Now notice how the closer you place these anchor points, the more choppy it would look, and the further away, the smoother it would look. So it takes a little bit of time. Just make sure you get comfortable with it. Now let's say if by mistake, like I did just here, I'm placing this anchor just a little further away, and maybe I would like to push it in a little closer. So let me go ahead and undo, and maybe let's say by mistake I went out here. If I click and drag it, let's say out here, I can hold down spacebar, and this is going to allow me to reposition that anchor. Then maybe I want the other one here. Now, if I need to go back to it, remember, go back to the direct selection tool. Click on it once, put it in place, go back to your pen tool, and continue. If you got way too many anchor points, or maybe you're missing a few and would like to add some, you can always go back with your pen tool and just hover over that path. Now notice how my cursor has that plus sign, so I can add one there, I can add one here. And maybe if you would like to delete or get rid of an anchor, you just hover over it. You see that minus sign and click the one time. The dash means that we're good to continue. We're good to go. Maybe I would like to come out here, put that in. Remember, hold down Alt to make sharp turns. Oops. Let's try that again. If you ever do a mistake, just remember that you can always undo. If you hold down Control Z and Alt, you can undo multiple times. All right, now, hang on. I want to show you this. So as I hover over my very beginning point, you guys would see that I get a little zero there on my pen tool. So that zero, or that circle, just means that I'm closing my path. Oops. There you go. Now it's a closed shape path. Right. This stuff right here, don't worry about it. That's just my computer glitching. If I were to just move things around, is it? What is that thing? Oh no, it's actually created another path. Did it? What is that? Anyway, I don't know what that is. Disregard it. Anyhow, so here it is. Let's zoom out just a little bit. Okay, so we just created the path. And now we're going to right click and we're going to fill path. This is going to give us the fill path window options where we can change foreground color to background color. And when it talks about foreground color, it talks about this color shift. This one is going to be the foreground color. This one is going to be the background color. So whatever colors you have there, a specific color that maybe you just want to select, a pattern or texture, or black, 50% gray, or white. We're gonna go with black. Mode normal, you can change opacity. Once you're happy with your selections, just click OK. And here we go. So a little bit of work, okay, but a perfect looking path. Now let's talk about the second method, inking by shapes. Selecting the pen tool, again, instead of path up here, drop down menu, go ahead and click shape. This is my preferred method of inking, and it works kind of similar, just like with the path, but this one, it actually shows you. So this one shows you the shape as you create it. To fill, you can change it there, make it 100% black. Stroke, if you have any, make sure you set it up to none. So let's go ahead and ink this eyebrow. So I just click and drag, and you guys will see that as I move, I'm creating that shape. Now, you can run into a little bit of difficulties when you cannot see what's happening underneath. You kind of have to eyeball it. One thing that you can do is go into your opacity for your layers and bump it down. Go back here, make sure you close your path. Here we go. Opacity, change it back to 100%. So some of the main differences that you will find between those two. Number one, the path, once it's made, if I go back and try to edit it, it will not allow me to do so. But the shape does. If I go back to it, you guys can see, those are my anchor. And if I were to select my pen tool, I can get rid of the stuff that I don't want. Or I can even add or move. So certainly a big difference there. One will allow you to edit the shape once it's created, but the path will not. Last but not least, I'm going to create a new layer, just simply using your brush. So usually for this, it would be a good idea to select a hard edge brush. You want to avoid all the soft edge stuff. It's not going to look as good. And you may also go into the brush settings if you wish, and therefore you can squish the roundness. I would probably set up the spacing to about 1%, hardness 100%, and then the roundness and the angle, you can play with that. Another setting that I like using is this one. This one is going to control the pressure sensitive for the size, opacity 100%, flow 100%. I don't really like using this one. Make sure this one is off. This one is going to give you transparency as you're trying to ink a piece of work. You don't want no transparency. So let's go ahead and do the eye. Oops. So this one is certainly freehand and will allow you much more freedom, but probably you may want to practice a little bit before it may take, you may want to practice just a little bit. It may take a couple of strokes to get it just right. Now this one is nice. It feels very traditional itself, and it certainly feels more natural than the other ones. Like I said, in terms of preferences, I certainly prefer the shape method out of the three. It's actually the one that I've used the most, but I encounter a lot of students that they don't seem to enjoy that method at all. So I think ideally what you want to do is create a combination of different methods, and then depending on what the area is, you may tackle it different. Not the whole illustration doesn't have to be attached to the one method. It can certainly be different methods, and ultimately would be a method that will work out best for you. I think part of the key here too is to have a confident line. Some of my lines was not really confident at the beginning. There we go. So something, just be committed to that line. Just go for it. So let's say these freckles, I will certainly tackle them with the brush method. But let's say this string of hair, maybe I would like to use the shape method or the path method for it. Maybe I would like to use the same method for the entire face. Remember, you can always use the white-headed arrow to manipulate those corners. And that's part of the reason why I really enjoy using this method. Allows me total manipulation. Here I notice it's a little thick. Let's use the path, maybe for the nose. Remember that for the path, you do need to create your own layer. There we go. Maybe the brush for the rest of the details there. So you see something like this, I think probably the shape one will give you better results. Same thing for lines that you really want to have more control. Alright guys, thank you so much for your time. Please leave your comments below. If you think this was useful, please let me know so I can keep on making them. And if you have any suggestions for any new tutorials, don't hesitate to let me know. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you.